Hello, my name is Andrea Rodriguez, and thank you and welcome to 3 o'clock with SOC. Give me a moment to invite our Spanish-speaking guest. Bienvenido y gracias por ver 3 o'clock with SOC. Si quieres acceso al programa en español, por favor marque ese número que aparece en la pantalla. ¿Cuál es? 646-749-3122. Cuando le conteste su llamada, marque 779-328 and 221. Today is September 25th, and we are still celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Later on the show, Tammy will be on to interview author Eloisa Gomez, who is co-author of Somos Latinas. Besides that, we would like to let you know that we also will have access to our recorded version in English and Spanish later on our Facebook page and also our YouTube channel. We also have a SOC survey that we wanted you to know about. It's very important, so please make sure you're filling it out. Very, very quick survey, and it lets us know about any changes you would like to see or any topics that you would like us to cover. But we also want you to know that I'm not wearing my mask right now. 53215, where our SOC's headquarters is located, is still considered a hot zone right now for COVID-19. So we're all working from home. I'm here in my lovely kitchen right now. So please, while we're working from home, we want you to know that's why I'm not wearing a mask, and we do want you to be safe out there. As a disclaimer, we want you to also know that the views and opinions shared on today's show do not necessarily reflect those opinions of SOC. So we just want to make sure you're clear of all of our guests. Today, we're very lucky because it's Organizing Leadership and Community Development Day. And again, I'm Andrea Rodriguez, the Leadership Coordinator for Southside Organizing Center. So thank you for joining us. It's my second day moderating, and I know I'm getting a little bit better every time, so I thank you all for being patient with me. Again, we'll be having Eloisa Gomez on in a little bit with Tammy. But for next week, we have some great things coming on as well. Ingrid Newcomer from League of Women Voters Wisconsin will be joining us. We'll also have Ingrid Fernandez, who's from the Consulado. And then we'll have on Thursday, Paul Krupski, Department of Health Services on opioid initiatives. Besides that, I know we're going to have some more amazing guests for you. I'm so excited for them, and we'll be seeing them all soon. Besides that, I'm going to go ahead and invite Tammy Rivera on, and she'll be interviewing our guest.
Thank you, Andrea. And yeah, every time we do it, we get a little bit better. So I appreciate all of my staff being cross-trained and digging in. Folks, it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and we want to lift up the work and the leaders and the servants in our community. From that portion of our community, as our district is approximately 70% Latino AX. All right, folks, we have a great guest person I've known for decades. Met her while she was doing some really important research and nonprofit work, and then we got together in a Woman of Color circle, and we've just crossed paths so many times. I really appreciate how tender-spirited but focused she is as a leader. So I'd like to invite on today Eloisa Gomez. Eloisa is the co-author of Somos Latinas, the Voices of Wisconsin Latina Activists. And we're going to talk to her about her role with the book, about the process and the product, and her work with the census. So if we can have Eloisa. Hola, Eloisa.
Hi, Tammy. Good to see you.
It's good to see your face. I'm so sorry that we're all navigating this digital world. So it took a little work to get you here digitally with us, but I'm so glad that you made it.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate all your staff that helped make this happen as well.
Yeah, it takes a whole team, and so grateful for them. Eloisa, we have shared with our viewers always a little bit about the roles. So maybe you could talk about the past roles you've had in the community and the one that you have as an author, just to give people a sense of the different careers people can have and what those entail. If you want to share a little bit about your background, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I would say that I kind of fall into three categories of professional development. One would be in the nonprofit world, where you and I have met several times along the way. So I started after college at the Centro Hispano quite a number of years ago, and have been with several nonprofit organizations over the years. And then another area has been in government. And in that area, I have been with the university system in two different capacities, both with UW Milwaukee, the state government, state legislature, where I work for State Senator John Norquist. And I also ended my career as the director of the Milwaukee County office of UW Extension. But I also worked for 9 years as a independent consultant. So I had my own business for 9 years. It's hard to believe. And I really enjoyed that because I had the opportunity to do strategic planning and proposal development work and community building projects with a variety of different organizations. So that's in some my background.
That's super interesting for folks to know. There's so many options to walk out your passions with, and so always want to share that. Eloisa, share how the book came about. What was that process?
Oh, sure.
That initiated that, and then walk us through the process of authoring a book for folks who feel they have a story that they need to tell.
Great. Okay, I will do that, and I'll just hold up the book called Somos. Oh, there you
go. I got mine at your debut in Milwaukee, your book debut.
Oh, okay. Well, so much came before the book was written. In fact, the book was written because we wanted to really provide a great amount of visibility to the work that my co-author, Dr. Andrea Teresa Arenas, who, Tammy, you know pretty well too, and her nickname is Tess, so I'll be calling her Tess, but she's Dr. Arenas to a lot of people. She was an instructor at the UW-Madison School of Latino Studies, Chicano and Latino Studies, and an instructor there. She was approached by a national organization of women, a small group of women, who had begun to document the stories of Latina activists over the entire country, and this is back in the early 2000s when we heard about their work. And so they approached Tess and said, "Hey, could you do the same in Wisconsin? We don't have any stories of women in Wisconsin." In fact, one of the major landmark books around Latinos in the United States, or Latinas in the United States, there is a huge 2-volume book. No one from Wisconsin is in it. And yet there's so many of our women who rightly deserve to be in that book. And with that knowledge, Tess wanted to really capture the stories of our older Latina. Why older? Because so many of our older Latina activists have already passed away. We're already elderly and infirmed. So, Tess is like, man, we got to capture these stories before they're gone, before they're lost. We've lost too many. And Tammy, we've already lost so many powerful, uplifting stories of women who are so selfless in so many ways and working on behalf of the community. And so with that, Tess began this effort, and I was on an advisory committee. So once that was done, and that was like a 2-year, maybe more, closer to a 3-year project, she and I were talking about it, and we both agreed that if we wrote a book, that we could highlight these stories. They're available to the whole world, if you will, through the Wisconsin Historical Society. And so we said, yes, let's do it. Neither one of us had ever written a book before. and we didn't think, honestly, we didn't think there would be a lot of interest in it, because there hadn't been a lot of interest in our Latino stories. And again, you know that, Tammy, from your history and the history of so many women who we know who have fought against injustices. So the first organization we took it to, which was the Wisconsin Historical Society Press, said yes, they were interested.
Awesome.
They were like, oh no, now we've got a lot of
Now
work
you got-
ahead of us. And so what we did is the work that Tess had done over the years with the students, we said, okay, there's no way we can do the 40 plus stories of the women in the book, in her project. So we said, let's take a subset. And we ended up with 25 from those oral history interviews. And then what we did is we re-interviewed the women again. And with the book, we put a more of a focus on what does community activism mean from a Latina point of view, from an older Latina point of view, if you will. Several of them, I shouldn't say all of them or most of them, but they started their activism early on, even into their early years. But we really kind of see the influence they had, the risk they took, the work that they did, I would say generally between the 1960s and the 1990s. That was kind of the focal area of the research that we had done. And so you'll see many stories. And I'd be glad to read you a quick one if
Yes,
you would like.
absolutely. Let's share and give folks a sense of what the book is about.
Okay. Now there's 25 wonderful stories, but here's one. And I'm not saying that this is my favorite because, like having children, you can't say
You got to rotate when you highlight.
Exactly. Okay. So I'm highlighting Senora Irene Santos. And Tammy, you may know her. She was the former director of the Spanish Centers of Racine and Kenosha, and had done, way beyond her role as a director there. She was involved in so many civil rights and migrant rights struggle. And this is a woman who may, in part, define her work with alliance building with the African American community in Racine and Kenosha. And she said, you know what, we've got to build our alliances to create the long-term change that we need. So here, and this is an example where her witnessing injustice happened earlier in her life, and it really, helped motivate her to take on the struggles here in Wisconsin. And this is back in El Valle in the 1960s. She says, things started to change in Crystal City, Texas, where I mostly grew up. It was at a time when many of us worked for the Del Monte Cannery in our town. And this was around the time when La Raza Unida Party started. A small group of us questioned why we didn't have any Hispanics on the city council or mayor, since we had the same mayor for 35 years. Back then, the Hispanics had a poll tax. I think it was about $1.76 to vote. And that prevented many of us from voting because we did not have the money. We knew it was wrong. And one time in the early 60s, we held a protest about our right to vote. And we said, vámonos, let's work together. So we urged our friends, come on, vénganse. And we held meetings at people's homes. Some of the gringos came to our homes to intimidate us, but we didn't know how far they would go. So we held our meetings at night. We put blankets over our windows so no one would see inside. We used kerosene lamps to dim with dim lights as we met inside. And we experienced people, waiting outside in the back of our house to scare us. We had to deal with Los Rinches, the Texas Rangers. They came and they beat up a few of our young men who were advocating for our rights, like Dr. Angel Gutierrez. One night, the Rangers were waiting for him outside his house. They were beating him up until his mother came out with a rifle, and that's why they left. We decided we had to vote, and we had to run our own candidates like mayor and our city council. As election day got closer, we were scared to death, but we said, no, we can do this, and we deserve this like anybody else. On election day in 1963, we won all 5 local races. Juan Cornejo was one of our leaders, and he became the mayor of Crystal City. I still have the original cards and everything. For many years after that, the positions were filled by Mexican Americans. Now we have congressmen, and we have the right to choose our own political leaders.
Incredible. And you know what's shocking about that? Well, it isn't shocking, it's disappointing, is we have still voter suppression in 2020, and this was a poll tax in 1963.
Mm-hmm. It's
But
right.
but despite that, look at the victories they had, and look at the victories we're having, like really turning around that oppression, and how luchadoras our women are to press through the fear, the violence, the obstruction to vote. So proud
And
to
I
hear
think,
that.
yes, and I think they didn't see themselves as luchadoras. I think they just said, and in fact, every time we were interviewed, they said, why us? Why do you want to interview us? We were just doing what we thought needed to be done. So they didn't view themselves as out of the ordinary. And in some ways, they were not out of the ordinary. They were regular people who cared about their community and wanted to see change. But yet they were extraordinary because of the risk taking. I mean, they sacrificed their time with their own family. They didn't see their children for hours on end. And, they really relied on family members to support them as they went out and did their community work. So many kinds of sacrifices were involved. Their health, physical health, mental well-being, because they were in their failures, and there were failures. They were self-doubting, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And yet and like that term, and yet they persisted. So, and that's really part of, I think, what will inspire people who read the book, that notion of, despite the odds against them and the work that they did, they still went ahead and they forged forward with other people. And that's the definition of community activism. It is about, it's not me, the Lone Ranger, I'm a horse and I'm there to change the world for the better. No, it's, how do we work together, even with people who we may not agree with all the time, but how do we work together, lock arms, and walk the path together towards change? And there are so many stories like that in this book.
Yeah, it's no surprise, right? The humility that people show because they feel it's their responsibility, like compelled to move. I just want to add too that women finance so much of the movement, like women selling things to raise money, but also just really sacrificing. And I'm sure that's true for all of the women. How long did the book take from the time you got the okay from the Historical Society till it was published, Eloisa?
It's funny because it wasn't that long ago, but I am having a little bit of a hard time remembering. I would say that it was just actually a little over a year, and it took and we pretty much met the deadline, because when you sign a contract and that you predict a date, and we were off, but I think by a month, but we plowed ahead. And I have to thank, there's so many generous people, like all of the 25 women and everyone who donated. A lot of people donated their time, including La Señora Dolores Huerta. We contacted her. She did the foreword to our book.
I saw that, yeah.
And she didn't know me, and yet I contacted her foundation and I explained things to her, one of her staff people. And when she heard that this entire book was built on the foundation of generosity, she said that she would do it. So it was a labor of love and giving by so many people.
Do you have any sense, you and Tess, how many hours were committed to the book?
Oh,
God. Was there any tracking, or it was just like, look, and we're not even going to measure the love here?
Yeah, there you go. It was just hundreds of hours.
Me imagino.
Yeah. I have to tell you, when I did the third final draft, it was the 4th of July, Tammy, and the fireworks were going off in the background. And I just put, the finishing touches to the third final draft. And it was very, it was just like really appropriate, that kind of
Yeah.
a celebration moment for me and Tess. We both were so excited that because once you write the book, then there's there's the draft,
Yeah.
some of the recommended changes that are needed, clarification that our publisher was looking for. So there's another number of months that follow once you submit your copy of the book.
Back and forth. What would you say was the most gratifying part of the process? The product is something else, but of the process, what do you think was the most gratifying for you? What blessed you the most?
I feel so much more inspired in my life because of the stories that these women shared. And some of these women I knew all my life, or almost all my life. But when they told me their stories, and sometimes we were on the phone laughing, and sometimes we were crying because you're asking people to remember some very difficult times in their life. And they were just so inspiring, and it was kind of interesting because Tess and I had this moment independently that we said, you know what, because of all this generosity, the royalties from the books are going back to nonprofit causes. We just felt like we could not accept, payment for something where, we had to continue to pass on the generosity. And that's the, but their stories inspire me. And now I feel, especially as I'm older in life, I was just about to tell you my age, but I'll pass on that, is that as I'm older in life, I know it's more important that we figure out how to pass it on to our younger generations. The mentorship that I know you do, Tammy, and others do, our younger women are taking over now, and we need to support them as they take over, because there's a time for me, I know, that I won't be able to continue with my volunteer work, but I have to believe that that my role now is becoming more of a support role to them.
Absolutely. What would you say was the most challenging part, Eloisa?
Just staying at the computer hour after hour. This book was about their voices, and yet we had so much information from each of the women that we had to take, this Mount Everest, and bring it down to something that was manageable. And I think that was the hardest thing, because there were some stories I did not want to give up. Some powerful stories I didn't want to give up, and yet you had to, because you had to make the book manageable for people to read and to get through it. Yes.
Now the product. So how did that feel when you got that first copy with that beautiful art, those powerful stories? How did that feel? Like, take us to that time.
This was back in May. We had two book launches, one in Madison at the Wisconsin Historical Society, where the publisher is also housed, and where the collection of the women's stories are held. So that was so appropriate for us to do that first there in Madison. And, I was on cloud 9, and most of the women were able to make it. So they were there as we launched the book. And then a number of the women were there in Milwaukee too. And we could have held it at a fancier place, but we felt it very important that we hold it at the Mitchell Street Library, because that's in the heart of our Latino community. And that's where we needed to be. We needed to share that witness with our community, that books like this are there for them, and to help the next generations to continue the good work. So that was just a wonderful feeling. And one of our women have passed away already, Berta Zamudio, in our book. She was there at both events, and her children were so proud of her, Tammy. It just made me so happy that Berta could see this, see her good work in the book before she passed away. At least two of our women now have two of our women have serious illnesses, So they are not aware of the book anymore. So these are why the book
all
is
the
so important.
more.
And I just want to say that Tess and I have felt like there has to be more books coming out of Wisconsin about our women like you and others who are younger than us, that your stories need to be told. And so we're hoping that if we can support anyone who's going to be writing the next volume of our Latina activists, that needs to be told.
Yeah, looking forward to the next version. We're going to say some hellos and get some questions answered here. If you're with us today, we can always see the number of people that are signed in, but not who's here. So drop a quick line and say hello. Saluda aquí en el comentario, please. María de Jesús Martinez Salinas said hello. Question. Where can the book be purchased from? What stores in Milwaukee, or how can they get a copy of the book?
Sure.
Thank you, Darlene.
Boswell, yes, thank you for that question. Boswell Books, I think, usually has several copies on hand. Of course, you can buy it online. And I think there's one called bookshop.org. And I should have remembered, it's a new online service that some of the sales from the books goes back to independent publishers. So that's another route to take. And of course, there's Amazon where the book can be purchased. And I also recommend that people, pretty much all of Milwaukee County, all of the library system has a copy of our book, but really encourage your local libraries, if you're not in Milwaukee County, to encourage them to get the book, to make that available. I would love to see the book in all of our libraries throughout the world.
That would be wonderful. We have a question from Miranda, who does our interpretation. Is the book available in Spanish?
No, it is not. And
not yet.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We would love to have it in Spanish as well, because that we have heard that question a number of times. And yes, that would be wonderful to do. We've passed it on to our publisher, and they have to be the ones that would approve that and invest in that. So the more the Wisconsin Historical Society, gets the message, I think the more there would be an interest in doing that. And the book has been selling relatively well. So at some point I think they have to hit a certain marker for them to
want to expand.
Correct. Expand it into Spanish.
Well, I know that it's been a frequent gift. Literally, I had a friend over earlier, and he was asking me for some recommendations on what to read. And I said, get this book for your mom. The next time it's her birthday or Mother's Day, or you just want to bless her, get this book for your mom, because his mom is a little younger than, like, in the cross generation for this, and she'll know some of the women. Thank you, Miranda, for that question. And then thank you. We have our staff is putting those resources where you can get the book right in the comments. So they did find Bookshop. They did find Amazon. Please share any questions. I'm going to make some observations in the book. I do know many of the women. I was blessed and am blessed by their love, encouragement, regaños over the years have served me well, like Neda, Gladys, Lola Cruz, Daisy, Carmen de la Paz, Maria Rodriguez, Lenore, like she's the best cheerleader. She knew my mom, and so a lot of them. But you know what really touched me from the book is this photo and mention of Miss Rivas.
Yeah.
So my mom worked there at the Guadalupe Head Start Center, but I just want to share, we had a lot of loud but quiet leaders among the women, meaning they were brave in the work that they did, but they never looked for the accolades, and often were ignored, as you said. So that's why the important work is. And I just want to share with folks, it's been my observation that oftentimes men were highlighted, and many of the men from this time, Jesus Salas, Dr. Baez, have talked about this, which is oftentimes the men were asked to come to the table. The men were given the title. The men were given the jobs that were available, the money, and they progressed their careers that way. And oftentimes it was women who did the work. And so, the leadership, there was a gender discrepancy, but we're hearing more and more of the stories from the perspective of the men who are, who give witness to when they said, I remember Jesus Sala saying the women came in and like broke up the meeting, like we're going to be here. And we still have to continue to do that. And so glad that those stories are being told. We have one more question. Hi, Luisa. What is the best way to get in touch with you? Jessica Corina Rodriguez. We can share. One thing is the Facebook page for the project. Do you have a Facebook page for the project, correct?
That is correct. So she could just send me a message through that, and I'd be more than glad to get a hold of you, and just leave me your email address and let's connect. I would love to talk to you more.
And what is the title of that Facebook page? I forget it now.
Yes, Somos Latinas. Yes,
Somos Latinas project or something.
Right? I think, Somos, yeah.
It's Somos Latinas. I looked there. So you can contact her there and the project there. And hopefully we can get some of the women who are with us on the program during Hispanic Heritage Month reaching out to make some of that happen. Before you go, Eloisa, what are you working on now? I'm very aware of it, but let's tell people what your new project is or your recent project.
Yes, I'm just, I'm very happy to share that I'm the chair of El Comité por el Voto Latino, the Latinx voter outreach team, which is part of the League of Women Voters of Milwaukee County. Our comité is focused in on about 62 wards on the south side of Milwaukee because we want to provide all the resources that we can to the Latino community that would assist them in registering to vote and support as they vote. So much of the literature has not been in Spanish. So we spent hours and hours translating so many materials into Spanish, and now more organizations are translating information into Spanish. So we used to, before the pandemic, we would be at every nonprofit event that we were invited to, distributing information in Spanish and in English. And now it's a difficult thing to do because we want to keep everybody, our volunteers, safe, and we want to keep the public safe too. So we're not doing these big events or going to the big events. However, one thing we do have are some lawn signs that we can give for free. There you go. It's our Voto and Vote lawn sign. It's nonpartisan. That's the League of Women Voters. We're not taking a political side on these candidates. We want to share all the information available to you. So we'd be glad to offer free lawn signs to up to 15 families on the that are affiliated with SOC. And please let Tammy know and or Travis know. We'd be glad to get that to you for free. And if we need to buy more signs, we'll try to do that because we want to get that reminder out to everyone.
If you would like a sign, folks, you can put it in the comments, or you can contact us at 672-8090, the SOC office. That's area 414. You can email us at soc@socmilwaukee.org, or you can contact us through any of our social media and say you want to sign, and we'll make sure to connect you. Eloisa, it's so good to see you, hermana.
I know, Tim.
I so appreciate you. And I'm so orgullosa of the work that you all did, just in love with it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Tammy. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I wish you so much more success in all that you do. God bless you.
Igualmente. Take care. Adios. All right, folks, I'm going to turn the program, the forum back to Andrea.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that interview, Tammy. And what a wonderful interview it was. I know I fully agree, having the public narrative of women is just so very important. So yeah, I fully agree with that. And if you do want a voter sign, please don't hesitate to put your name in the comments so we can reach out to you and make sure you have that. Next, we're going to have Marlene Zahran with an interview with Dr. Arana from 16th Street Clinic to speak to us about the safety of when going back to school. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about COVID-19. Specifically, we're talking about schools and kids returning to school and what happens if my child gets COVID-19. And we're talking with Dr. Arana, and she's going to be giving us the answers to that. She is from 16th Street Clinic. So, Dr. Arana, our first question for you is it safe for kids to return to school?
Thank you for having me today, Marlene. I want to talk to the community about this very important topic today, going back to school during this COVID-19 pandemic. Is it safe? It depends on each community. Okay, we have to really keep in mind that each community is different. We have to keep watching the data. We have different dashboards at the Milwaukee Health Department. We know the prevalence of COVID-19. We know the percentage of positives based on zip codes, and it depends where your school is located. So the schools are in contact with the health department. We are planning a really safe back to school because the cases are still at high percentage positives. Most schools, as you know, are going to start virtual. But once we get ready for the hybrid model where some kids can be in person at the schools and some kids are going to be virtual, we are going to make sure that that's safe, and the schools have very strong plans for the kids to be safe when they go back to school. No scenario is perfect, okay? The schools and the health departments, they do best we can to offer the safest situation at the school, but we know that when kids go back to school, we're going to see more cases of COVID-19, as we see cold, runny noses, sore throats every season. It's just going to happen. We just want to make back to school as safe as we can.
Right. Is the clinic, 16th Street Clinic, working together with the school system to help with testing and treatment of students with COVID-19?
We've been in contact with some schools in the community. We've been in contact with the health department, and we are in communication, and we are aware of what the schools are going to be opening, and most are going to be opening in a virtual mode. And we are here to support back to school. If those kids have any screening positive, if they have symptoms, 16th Street Clinic welcomes all those students to be tested here at the clinic.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that wonderful interview with Dr. Arana. We are so thankful with our partnership with 16th Street Clinic and all that they do for the South Side. Next, we're going to have a civic engagement update with our civic manager, Gabe Charles. Gabe is actually going to be back in the show on Monday, but she did want me to share a little note before we show her 2 videos today. We had some really great news happen. A district court in California has ruled that the Census Bureau cannot end operations on September 30th, as originally was announced. Instead, they will have to continue counting all residents until the official end on October 31st. This is extremely helpful news because right now the South Side is on an average about 55% of completion for the census. So we have a lot of work to do. So this weekend, please make sure you're asking your friends and family if they are completing the census. But next, we're going to have a voter video go on and then a census video.
To vote in Wisconsin, you will need a Wisconsin driver's license or other acceptable photo ID for voting. If you don't have a Wisconsin driver's license, go to bringit.wi.gov for other acceptable forms of ID. You can get a free Wisconsin state ID for voting at a Division of Motor Vehicles Service Center near you. Go to bringit.wi.gov for information on what you need to bring to obtain an ID for voting. If you have any questions about how to get an ID for voting, call the voter helpline at 608-285-2141. Volunteers are available to help you with every step of the process to obtain an ID for voting. Once you have one of the acceptable photo IDs for voting, make sure to bring it with you to your polling place. You'll also need to provide a photo ID if you request an absentee ballot. When you request an absentee ballot online at myvote.wi.gov, you'll have to upload a copy of your photo ID. It is easiest if you do this with a smartphone, though a tablet or computer with a webcam will also work. Once you go through the online absentee ballot request process, you will be prompted to upload a copy of your photo ID. Click the green Add Files button. Then click Take Photo or Video. Take a picture of your ID. Double-check that it uploaded correctly and press Continue. Once you are finished, you will see a screen that says, "Thank you for successfully submitting your absentee ballot request."
Excellent. Thank you so much. And if anyone out there would like to drop in a comment or say hi to us, we'd really appreciate that. And if you would like a yard sign, please let us know, or maybe tag a friend who you think might be interested. But next, we're going to go ahead and have a civic engagement video go on.
Behind every 2020 census taker's mask is a friendly neighbor. They're teachers, retirees, vets, people committed to doing right by getting the count right. If you haven't responded yet, they'll be stopping by to ask some simple questions that will inform how billions in federal funds are spent on local services every year for the next decade. So when they come knocking, say hi from a safe distance and do your part to support your community. Time is running out. Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
Excellent. Thank you so much to Gabe Charles, our Civic Engagement Manager, for those two excellent videos. And we're so hopeful that with this extra time until October 31st, that we'll be able to have even more numbers counted for the census. Gabe will be back on the show on Monday to give us more details about that decision that was made today. So we're so excited about that. Up next, we're very lucky. We're going to have Maria Perea come on, and she's going to give us an interview and tour with Walker's Point Association. Please don't hesitate to leave some comments and for us if you want to say hi to us, and we'll have the next video. I apologize. I just realized you couldn't hear me, but we had a little sound difficulty on that, and I do apologize. Hopefully we can fix that sound issue in just a moment, because it is a very important interview with Walker's Point Association. We'll be working on that right away, and if we can go ahead and have our SOC survey promo instead.
Has this live forum been informative and useful to you? What part of the forum could be improved or changed to make it better? Please take a quick survey that's located in the comments section so that we can keep 3 o'clock with SOC going for residents. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, and we're hopeful that we can get that video back up. Otherwise, we will have it for you very soon, we promise. As we get to the end of our show, I just wanted to remind you, we have some amazing guests coming up next week, and I'm so excited to see them. Eileen Newcomer, who is from the League of Women Voters Wisconsin, will be joining us. We'll also have Ingrid Fernandez from the Consulado, and Paul Krupski from the Department of Health Services, Director of Opiate Initiatives, which is so important right now that we're making sure we're helping each other and making sure we're dealing with that cause. As always, SOC always wants to say solidarity with all the protesters. Please be safe out there. We're always thinking of you and with you in spirit. And we're also there for anyone who may be affected by COVID-19. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And now we'll have a thunder thank you from our president of South of the Tracks, next. See you soon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to SOC's Live Forum today. My name is Jeanette, and I am the resident lead for South of the Tracks Polonia Resident Group. Today, we'd like to thank some sponsors: Wisconsin Voices, Community Development Block Grant, Neo Philanthropy State Infrastructure Fund, Movement Voter Project, Catholic Campaign for Human Development, Zilber Foundation, City of Milwaukee Office of Violence Prevention, Tides Foundation, City of Milwaukee Promise Zones, and all the faithful individuals who support SOC through their personal donations. We thank you. We hope you all are staying safe. Talk to you soon.